The Galactic Council had seen it all: empires rising, civilizations crumbling, and warlords claiming dominion over the stars. Thousands of species fought for power, influence, and survival in the vast cosmos. But when the latest hyper-intelligent analysts assessed the newest species to step onto the interstellar stage, humanity, the verdict was unanimous: no chance. Humans were weak. Their homeworld, Earth, was a chaotic mess of wars, environmental disasters, and political instability. They lacked natural weapons like the razor-clawed Vrex or the psionic abilities of the Zerathii. Worse, they weren't even biologically impressive. Their strength-to-weight ratio was pathetic, their lifespans were mediocre, and their immune systems were laughably vulnerable. The verdict? They'd be wiped out within a century. When humanity finally made contact with the Galactic Council, they were met with a mixture of indifference and amusement. The elite species saw them as nothing more than temporary background players, another minor race that would either be absorbed or destroyed in the endless conflicts of the galaxy. They were given observer status, the lowest possible rank in the Council, and denied entry into major trade agreements. Even the merchant guilds refused to deal with them, convinced that humanity would soon be conquered or enslaved. The ruthless Zargan Dominion had already marked Earth as an easy acquisition. But the aliens had made one critical mistake. They had underestimated humans. The first war no one saw coming. It started small. A pirate fleet attacked one of Earth's early colony ships, the Ulysses III, expecting an easy victory. They expected humans to surrender immediately. Instead, the pirates were met with something terrifying: humans fought like they had nothing to lose. The ship's security team, vastly outgunned, refused to give up. They improvised weapons, hacked the pirate ship systems mid-battle, and turned their own ship into a death trap for boarders. When the dust settled, the pirate flagship had been disabled, and the rest of the fleet limped away. The Galactic Council dismissed it as a fluke. Then it happened again. And again. Every time humans were attacked, they adapted. They learned. They found ways to turn their weaknesses into strengths. Their ships weren't the most advanced, but they modified them relentlessly, pushing them to their limits. Their soldiers weren't the strongest, but their sheer unpredictability made them deadly. Their lack of specialized traits made them underestimated, but that very underestimation became their greatest weapon. The moment the Zargan Dominion launched its first full-scale invasion of Earth's colonies, the galaxy learned a terrifying truth. Humanity refused to be conquered. The galactic betting pool. At first, the war was expected to last days. Then weeks. Then months. The Zargan Dominion poured billions of credits into the war effort, yet somehow, humanity wouldn't break. Then, something bizarre happened. The aliens started betting on them. It started in the underground gambling dens of the Zignari Syndicate. Then, in the backrooms of elite merchant guilds. Soon, even the high-ranking members of the Galactic Council secretly placed wagers on the humans. Would they hold out another month? Another year? Would they actually push the Zargan forces back? No species had ever fought this hard. The odds kept shifting. And then, the unthinkable happened: humans began winning. They weren't just resisting anymore. They were advancing. The first human victory came at Dara 9, a backwater mining colony. The Zargan fleet outnumbered the humans 5-1, but the human forces didn't fight fair. They sabotaged enemy supply lines, used asteroid fields as cover, and deployed tactics that were so reckless they shouldn't have worked, but did. One victory led to another. Then another. Then, whispers began spreading. What if the humans actually win? It was a question that had never been asked before. For the first time in galactic history, a worthless species was turning into something more. Something legendary. And the galaxy was watching. The Zargan Dominion had ruled the outer territories for over 1,000 years. Conquering new species wasn't just policy, it was tradition. To them, humanity was supposed to be another footnote in their long history of victories. A species that should have crumbled within months. Instead, their invasion had become a nightmare. For the first time in centuries, the Zargan High Command had to draft a new war doctrine. Humans fought with a level of insanity that no previous species had ever shown. They turned inhospitable planets into death traps, they used outdated, primitive ships to execute flawless ambushes, and worst of all, they refused to surrender, The Dominion's casualties were mounting. Every new battle report read like a statistical impossibility. How could a species with such inferior technology outmaneuver, outfight, and outlast a military empire that had crushed entire civilizations? The Zargan Grand Warlord, Jorvanek, wasn't amused. A brutal message. The Dominion needed to make an example of humanity, a message so clear that every other species in the galaxy would see it and tremble, The target? Proxima 4. A mid-sized human colony, still developing, with a population of just over 5 million. Defended only by a handful of outdated orbital cannons and a ragtag militia. Jorvanek ordered an extermination campaign, no survivors, the world would be reduced to ash, a warning to every species watching. The Zargan fleet arrived in force, 2 full war armadas, overwhelming firepower. The human defenders sent a desperate transmission to Earth. The reply? Hold the line. Reinforcements are coming. The aliens laughed. What reinforcements? Humanity barely had a fleet. Proxima 4 was doomed. Then, the impossible happened. The reinforcements no one expected. 3 days after the invasion began, they arrived. Not a standard fleet. Not a structured military force. No. A swarm of human mercenaries, bounty hunters, smugglers, ex-pirates, and ex-soldiers, all answering the call. Some came for revenge, others came because, somehow, they had started believing in the impossible, that humans could win, Their ships were patched together monstrosities, a mix of stolen alien tech, human ingenuity, and sheer madness. Some of them had no shields, some had only one working thruster. And yet, they hit the Zargan fleet like a sledgehammer. Chaos in the void. The Dominion expected a standard battle. Humans gave them warfare with no rules. They weaponized asteroid debris, used their own damaged ships as ramming devices, and even deployed boarding teams armed with nothing but makeshift explosives and kinetic weapons. The Zargan warships were superior in every way, on paper. But the humans didn't fight like a normal military. They fought like survivors. One by one, the Zargan fleet fell apart. The Dominion was forced to retreat. For the first time in Zargan history, a species they considered beneath them had forced them to abandon an invasion. Jorvanek was furious. The galaxy was in shock. And humanity? They had just proven to the universe that they weren't prey. They were predators. The impossible had happened. The Zargan Dominion, an empire that had never known defeat, had been forced to retreat. Proxima 4 still stood. The humans had not only survived, they had won. And the rest of the galaxy had noticed. A new contender in the game. For centuries, the major powers of the galaxy had maintained a delicate balance. The Zargan Dominion ruled through sheer military might. The Zarathii psionics controlled the hidden world of information warfare. The Vrex clans thrived on their brutal warrior traditions. The Galactic Council, though officially neutral, ensured that no single power could dominate. And then, humanity arrived. At first, they had been ignored. Now, they were a problem. Because unlike every species before them, humanity did not follow the rules. They didn't adhere to standard war tactics. They didn't fight with predictable strategies. And worst of all, they refused to be controlled. The Council's dilemma. The Galactic Council, composed of the most powerful species in the universe, held an emergency session. For centuries, they had manipulated events from the shadows. They had crushed threats before they could rise. But humanity? Humanity was different. The humans had no unified empire. No ancient traditions. No singular ruler to bribe, blackmail, or threaten. They were chaos given form. And the worst part? They were winning. The war against the Zargan Dominion should have wiped them out, yet every battle only made them stronger. For the first time, the Council was faced with a species that refused to fit into the galactic order. And that made them dangerous. The silent war begins. Officially, the Council remained neutral. But behind closed doors, they acted. Trade sanctions were placed on human colonies. Mercenary groups that supported Earth mysteriously lost funding. Assassination attempts on key human leaders increased. It was a war fought in shadows, a war of influence and deception. But the problem was, humans were really good at war. The rise of humanity's spies. For years, alien intelligence agencies had dismissed humans as blunt instruments. They assumed humans would never excel at subterfuge or deception. They were wrong. Human intelligence operatives, trained in centuries of warfare and political games, adapted. They infiltrated enemy networks, exposed secret deals, and even turned alien agents against their own governments. By the time the Council realized what was happening, human spies had already embedded themselves across the galaxy. The silent war was no longer one-sided. It was a battlefield where humans thrived. And then, a new threat emerged, one that would push the galaxy into total chaos. The galaxy had been watching. The humans had been rising in power, defying every prediction, every calculation. Their victories against the Zargan Dominion had been nothing short of legendary. They had disrupted the established order, and for the first time in galactic history, a new power was emerging from the chaos. But as humanity celebrated its victories, an unseen threat was growing, an ancient force that had long been forgotten. The silent arrival. It started with whispers. At first, there were rumors of dark anomalies in distant star systems, strange shifts in the fabric of space. At the edge of human exploration, ships began disappearing without a trace. Entire colonies, once vibrant with life, were suddenly silent. The Council assumed it was the work of pirates, or perhaps rogue elements of the Zargan Dominion seeking revenge. But soon, the reports started coming in from too many sources. It wasn't pirates. It wasn't the Zargans. Something else was out there. A new threat, older than any of the major powers in the galaxy. And it was hunting humanity. The silence of the Kraith. The first fleet to encounter this unknown enemy was the human warship Aegis 17. They were on a routine patrol near the edge of the Proxima Expanse when they found it, a strange distortion in space, a massive black void that consumed everything in its path. It was like a rift in the very fabric of reality. Ships that entered the void were never seen again. Aegis 17 attempted to communicate, sending probes and signals, but all they received were distorted messages, strange symbols that seemed to pulse with an eerie, otherworldly rhythm. Then, the Kraith arrived. The Kraith were not like any species humanity had encountered. They didn't speak, didn't make demands. They didn't even seem to have a traditional fleet structure. They were a mass of sentient ships, their forms ever-shifting, made from living metal and dark energy. Their appearance was terrifying, vast, almost organic, as though the ships themselves were alive. The moment they engaged with Aegis 17, the human crew experienced something no one had ever seen in galactic warfare before, ***, complete sensory overload, ***. The Kraith didn't attack with conventional weapons. They used something much worse. Mind control. Humanity's resistance to telepathic influence was one of their greatest advantages. Most species in the galaxy, even the powerful Zerathii, could not defend against psychic manipulation. But humanity had long fought back against their own demons, wars, suffering, and mental resilience had hardened them. Yet the Kraith were different. Their psychic abilities were not just intrusive, they were mind-shattering. By the time Aegis 17's signal finally cut off, the crew had all gone mad. The Kraith had broken their minds. The horror unleashed. The first full-scale assault came a month later. The Kraith descended on a human colony in the outskirts of the Syros system, and within hours, nothing was left. The survivors, those who managed to flee, spoke of horrors that made no sense, creatures that warped space around them, turning the very fabric of reality into a nightmare. By the time a counterattack was mobilized, it was too late. Human fleets moved into the Syros system to find that the colony had already been reduced to rubble, its survivors either absorbed into the Kraith's strange hive mind or lost to madness. Worse still, it wasn't just one system under attack, **** the Kraith were spreading, ****. And they weren't just targeting humanity. They were targeting the entire galaxy. The Kraith were an ancient enemy that sought to consume and absorb. They had no politics, no allegiances. They were a force of pure destruction. The Council, once confident that humanity's victory over the Zargans had shifted the balance of power, now found themselves facing an enemy that threatened everything. Humanity's response. What followed was nothing short of remarkable. For the first time, the galaxy saw the true nature of humanity's strength, not just in warfare, but in their unity. Despite their differences, despite their often chaotic nature, humanity banded together in the face of annihilation. Military leaders, scientists, engineers, and even civilians worked side by side to develop new weapons, new technologies, and new tactics to combat the Kraith. They were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting to preserve everything they had built. For the first time in galactic history, humanity was no longer the underdogs, they were the torchbearers of hope, leading the charge against a force that could obliterate everything. The Kraith had underestimated humanity once more. This time, it would not be their resilience or their unpredictability that saved them. This time, it would be their refusal to give up. The Kraith had become the galaxy's nightmare, a force of destruction and madness. They didn't just fight wars, they wiped out civilizations, leaving nothing behind but echoes of terror. The galaxy trembled, caught between panic and helplessness. But humanity, once thought to be weak, was far from beaten. They had fought the Zargans, turned the tide of galactic power, and now they were ready for the greatest fight of their lives. And it would all come down to Syros. A desperate gamble. Syros was an old human colony on the fringe of the known universe, located just outside the most heavily contested areas of space. It had been home to thousands of colonists, all of whom had either fled or died in the early stages of the Kraith invasion. By the time the Kraith made their final assault, Syros was considered a lost cause. But the humans saw something the rest of the galaxy didn't, a chance. The Syros system was strategically important. It was the gateway between the core human colonies and the more distant reaches of space where the Kraith had first emerged. If the Kraith could be stopped here, the entire human presence in the galaxy could be protected. If they failed, everything would be lost. The Council watched from the sidelines, too divided and afraid to act. It was up to humanity, once again, to hold the line. But this time, they would need more than just their conventional weapons. They would need something new. And so, humanity's greatest minds, scientists, engineers, and military strategists, began working together. They would need to turn Syros into a trap. The trap is set. The plan was simple, but incredibly dangerous. Human engineers began constructing the Singularity Cannon, a device designed to create artificial black holes. The theory was that if enough energy could be concentrated into one small point, it would create a gravitational anomaly powerful enough to disrupt the Kraith's hive mind and perhaps even halt their advance entirely. The device would have to be fired at the heart of their swarm, the only way to affect the Kraith on a scale large enough to cause real damage. The problem? The Singularity Cannon required an unthinkable amount of energy, a force so powerful that it would likely tear apart Syros itself once it was activated. It was a one-shot weapon. If they fired it and missed, or if the Kraith adapted too quickly, it could mean the end of humanity. To make matters worse, humanity's fleet was outnumbered. The Kraith had amassed a force large enough to wipe out a dozen planets in a matter of days. The Aegis-class warships, humanity's pride, were few in number, and their crews were exhausted from years of continuous combat. But humanity had one thing the Kraith didn't: innovation. A fleet of crude but deadly warships, reminiscent of their early battle against the Zargan Dominion, rallied around Cyros. These ships weren't sleek, advanced models. They were hastily reinforced, some barely holding together, but they had one key advantage: they could hit the Kraith where it hurt most, their collective mind. The time had come. The trap was set. The battle for Cyros. The Kraith descended upon Cyros like a storm, their ships devouring all in their path. They were too numerous, too relentless, and for a moment, it seemed like humanity's last stand was nothing more than a fool's hope. Human warships fired blindly into the swarm, creating a temporary distraction. But the Kraith, with their hive mind, adapted faster than any enemy humanity had faced before. The humans' traditional tactics were useless. The Kraith pushed back, swarming over the few remaining human defenses. Then, the Singularity Cannon came online. For a brief, terrifying moment, there was silence. All activity halted. And then, the cannon fired, A rippling wave of gravitational energy erupted from the device, creating a black hole in the heart of the Kraith's forces. It was a terrible, unnatural thing. The air around it seemed to stretch and distort as the fabric of space itself began to collapse. The Kraith's hive mind, their collective consciousness, shuddered. For the first time, the Kraith stopped. The swarm faltered. Their psychic grip on the galaxy wavered. Humanity's fleet, against all odds, began to fight back. They no longer fought against a relentless, adaptive force, they were fighting against a fractured, confused enemy. The tides turned. But it wasn't enough to win. The Kraith had one final trick left. They began to withdraw, slowly at first, and then in full retreat, as the Singularity continued to tear at their collective mind. However, as they pulled back, they initiated self-destructive protocols within their ships. Hundreds of Kraith vessels detonated in brilliant explosions, leaving a deadly radiation field in their wake. The humans, wounded but not defeated, fought on, pushing the Kraith forces back system by system. The final retreat of the Kraith from Cyros wasn't a victory, it was a reprieve. The galaxy had been given another chance. But the war was far from over. The Kraith were still out there, and humanity's fight for survival had only just begun. The victory at Cyros was a triumph, yes, but it was not the end. The Kraith had retreated, fractured and weakened, but they were far from gone. The Singularity Cannon had shattered their hive mind, but it had not destroyed them completely. The galaxy's greatest threat had been temporarily halted, but at a terrible cost. Humanity had barely escaped extinction, and the rest of the galaxy, well, they hadn't fared much better. The cracks in the galactic order were now clear for all to see. Once united by fear of humanity's rise, the galaxy's great powers now found themselves fractured, each dealing with their own internal struggles and external threats. What had once been a collective fight against the Kraith had now become a battle for resources, survival, and control. The fallout of victory. The Galactic Council, already a fragile entity, found itself paralyzed after the events at Cyros. With the Kraith retreating into the unknown, and humanity now regarded as the new power in the galaxy, the Council could not maintain its unity. Diplomatic ties that had once held the galaxy together began to fray, as factions within the Council saw humanity's victory as a threat to their own power. The Zargan Dominion, humbled and weakened after their disastrous defeat at humanity's hands, began to reassert its dominance, now with a new agenda: destroy humanity before they could challenge the Zargan's reign once again. The Zarathii, having lost their place as the galaxy's premier intelligence faction, sought to reclaim their authority through covert operations. They were building a new network of spies, assassins, and saboteurs, focused solely on undermining human expansion. Even the Vrex clans, fractured by years of infighting, began reuniting under a new banner. They wanted the resources humanity had fought to protect, and they would stop at nothing to seize them. For humanity, these former enemies now presented an imminent threat. But the humans, who had once been isolated and underestimated, now had something else: alliances. The fragile alliances. Humanity's victory at Syros had drawn attention from unexpected places. In the wake of the battle, a coalition of outcasts, mercenaries, and rogue factions came together under a singular banner, the United Front. This coalition wasn't built on ideals of peace or cooperation, but of survival. Former enemies, once divided by species, had been forced to set aside their differences in order to deal with the new reality. The Kraith may be gone for now, but a new war was brewing, one that was more dangerous than anything humanity had faced. The first unexpected ally came in the form of the Zarathii. Their intelligence network, fractured and weakened by humanity's spy operations, was in tatters. They needed humanity's help to rebuild their clandestine operations in exchange for a temporary truce. Next came the Vrex clans, desperate for human technology to bolster their dying fleets. In exchange for tech and support, they offered their warrior forces to humanity's cause. It was an uneasy alliance, but it was necessary. And, perhaps most surprising of all, the Zargan Dominion, weakened but still fierce, had no choice but to begrudgingly accept a ceasefire. Their defeat at humanity's hands had humbled them, but they were united by a singular goal: survival. Humanity's rise had shown them that their empire could be toppled. Together with humanity, they would fight to prevent the Kraith's resurgence. It was a fragile peace. Tensions simmered beneath the surface, but all sides knew one thing: they had to hold together, or they would be torn apart by what came next. The hidden enemy. As these alliances formed, an unseen force moved within the shadows. The Kraith had not retreated, they had evolved. The galaxy had thought that the Kraith were merely an alien swarm, driven by mindless hunger and destruction. But in their retreat, the Kraith had changed. They had adapted to humanity's resistance in ways no one had expected. Humanity, in its desperation to rebuild, had failed to notice the subtle signs of Kraith infiltration. The Kraith had infiltrated the Council. They had taken on a new form, no longer just a mindless swarm but a network of infiltrators scattered across the galaxy, hidden inside the very power structures humanity had just allied with. Now, the Kraith were not only enemies on the battlefield, they were enemies within. They were watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. A new kind of war was beginning, the war against an enemy that could be anywhere. And humanity, despite its recent success, had no idea that the real fight had only just begun. The galaxy had been on the edge of annihilation for years. First, the rise of humanity shattered the old order. Then, the Kraith came and nearly wiped everything out. After humanity's unexpected victory at Syros, the galaxy was left with an uneasy peace. But beneath this fragile truce, a new war was being waged, not just with weapons, but with secrets and betrayals. Now, the galaxy stood on the cusp of its final reckoning. The Kraith were no longer a mindless force, they had infiltrated, they had adapted. And humanity, for the first time, found itself not only fighting for its survival, but for the very soul of the galaxy. The Kraith within. The Kraith had learned. The swarm was no longer just a collection of minds, it was a network, a hidden cancer within the very fabric of galactic politics. They were everywhere. In every faction, in every alliance, the Kraith had embedded themselves. Their infiltrators had taken positions of power, influence, and control. The once fractured council now found itself in turmoil, as leaders began to act against humanity's interests. The Zargan Dominion, once an ally, began to show signs of treachery. The Vrex clans, desperate to survive, seemed to turn a blind eye to the growing chaos. The Zarathii, despite their temporary truce with humanity, had begun to sabotage key human installations from within. Humanity had always been the underdog, but now they were fighting a war on two fronts, one against a fractured alliance of galactic powers, and one against an invisible enemy that could be anyone. The heart of the beast. At the heart of the galaxy, in the forgotten sectors, the Kraith had built something far more terrifying than anyone could have imagined, a second hive mind, one that could no longer be shattered by brute force or psychic disruption. This new hive mind was decentralized, operating not as one entity, but as a series of connected nodes, each independent, yet deeply interconnected. Humanity's finest minds were still recovering from the Singularity Cannon incident at Syros. They had barely begun to grasp the depth of the Kraitha's evolution when the first sign of the new threat emerged, a strange wave of panic spreading across the galaxy, originating from the deep core regions. The Kraith weren't just invading the galaxy, they had become the galaxy. The very infrastructure of galactic society was now infiltrated, from the highest ruling councils to the lowest levels of civilization. Betrayal from within. The human fleet had become the last line of defense against the Kraitha's growing influence. But the sudden betrayal from within shocked them all. It began with the Zargan Dominion. After their defeat and reluctant alliance with humanity, many in the Zargan leadership had never truly accepted the idea of a unified galactic peace. They had waited for the perfect moment to betray the humans, thinking they could return to their old glory. Then came the Vrex clans, led by a group of radical warlords who were willing to throw away the fragile alliance in exchange for more power. Humanity had helped them rebuild their fleets, but now the Vrex saw an opportunity to expand their territory, and they were willing to fight the humans for it. And worst of all, the Zarathii, who had once offered their intelligence expertise, had now begun sabotaging humanity's fleets and military systems. Their agents, planted deep within human operations, had started leaking critical information to the Kraith, allowing them to track human movements and cripple the military from the inside out. The Great Purge. With the galaxy on the brink of chaos, humanity realized that trust had become its most precious commodity. The alliance was in ruins, and every faction had their own agenda. The only option left was to purge the galaxy of Kraith influence. It began with Operation Blacklight, a series of brutal purges of human-held systems. It was a ruthless, no-holds-barred strategy that saw entire suspicious fleets and council officials sent to the front lines, where they were either exposed as Kraith infiltrators or wiped out to prevent further contamination. Human military leaders, including some of the most legendary war heroes from the Cyros battle, took charge of the operation. Each world liberated by humanity's forces saw the exposure of Kraith-controlled officials, from diplomats to high-ranking officers. The purge was bloody, but humanity's resolve was stronger than ever. For the first time, humanity realized that their greatest strength was not just in their weapons, but in their unity. Against all odds, they had become more than just a species, they were a force, one that would stop at nothing to protect their future. The final assault. With the galaxy on fire, humanity turned its attention to the final confrontation, the heart of the Kraitha's new hive mind, located deep in the Black Nebula, a place of intense gravitational fields and strange energy signatures. The Kroth Nexus, the core of their network, had to be destroyed if humanity stood any chance of survival. A massive coalition of human forces, supported by loyal factions from the Vrex clans and the remnants of the Zargan Dominion, launched an all-out offensive. The Kraith had anticipated the attack, and their forces were vast, their defenses impenetrable. But humanity was not afraid. With the help of the Singularity Cannon, humanity crafted a weapon even deadlier than before, a cannon capable of destabilizing the Kraitha's hive mind, to break the final link that held them together. The final battle was not just about firepower, but about the will to fight, to defend everything humanity had built. As the final shot from the Singularity Cannon ripped through the heart of the Kraith Nexus, the hive mind shattered. The galaxy, for the first time in years, was at peace. The Kraith were no more. The dawn of a new era. In the aftermath of the Kraitha's defeat, humanity emerged as the new leaders of the galaxy. But the victory came at a steep price. Millions had died in the final battle, and the galaxy was left in ruins. Entire systems had been destroyed, alliances shattered, and trust was now a rare commodity. But humanity had proven something undeniable: they were the true inheritors of the galaxy. Against all odds, against insurmountable odds, humanity had not only survived, they had triumphed. The final reckoning had come. The galaxy was free once more, and now humanity would lead it into a new age, one of rebuilding, renewal, and the hope that, together, they would never fall again.